Well, Ragnarok has come to an end, and following the decision to end the show, the Season 3 finale marked the completion of the final chapter. This season very much focused around the gods and the giants divide becoming even larger, whilst Magnus' powers were going to his head, and he was acting in a way that was like he'd never been before. The final episode left a lot of questions out there, and made us wonder if any of it was even real. Well, let's jump into it and break down all of the main things that there are to take away. Here is Ragnarok Season 3 ending explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. The ending. As we embarked onto the ending of the final episode, we saw that Edda was in peace and both giants and gods were living together as one. This was following the planned battle at the warehouse being called off by Magna. When Saxa was running towards them, Magna knew that he'd be able to destroy all three of the giants single-handedly with the hammer, and he instead took the high ground and thought that taking the road of peace was a more logical option. The choice of life over death, something which was put to the character on several occasions. This was also something which Magna would have never chosen a few episodes ago. Within this season, the power that Magna held was going to his head, and he was a transformed individual. He knew just how powerful he was and believed that everybody that wasn't as powerful was below him, hence why he was manipulating those around him, and he was even pushing the people that he once cared so much about further away. It was only because of Wotan and when he told Magna that having the ability to hold the hammer came with more responsibilities and leading life rather than causing devastation and death. It was once that was said his mindset changed, and he then realized what was going on inside of his own mind. He felt as though he'd let his father down, and also Isolde. And that was the source at the core of his frustration, the fact that he hadn't been able to do anything about Jütul. He had experience being on the poorer side of life and didn't like the fact that the rich were there and were able to wave their authority over them. But with the truce being called at the end of the previous episode and the disarming happening, it meant that they could live alongside one another in peace, and showed that he acted on that vision that he had. During Magna's graduation, we saw that the entire scene was intercut with Ragnarok unfolding, and the battle of the gods versus the giants. This happened because Magna rediscovered his comic book from when he was younger and was reading it. This was where we were essentially made to believe that everything that we had seen could have been going on inside of his head, and gods and giants weren't actually reincarnated in reality. Instead, it could have been due to the trauma that Magna went through when he was younger, and the escapism from the harsh reality of the world that he had experienced. He instead chose to bury his head in tales and stories as a coping mechanism, and this could have warped his reality. As the comic book was being read through, we saw the deaths occur of all of the gods and the giants, and even Little O appeared too, who was now an extremely large serpent. But in reality, all of the characters were unharmed and at graduation, showing that it could well have been something that he had made up in his mind in order to get over the trauma that he had, and Isolde's death could have been the very thing that triggered it, especially with it happening in his hometown. He may have viewed Saxa, Ran, and Fjord as giants, because that is what he viewed as evil, and with them heading up Jütul and being responsible for pollution, death, and the unemployment of his mother, along with many others in Edda, with the gods being perceived as good and him reading all about Thor when he was younger, he may have viewed himself and the people that he cared about as gods. It's one that's definitely left up to interpretation on how it's perceived, and whilst it's a bit frustrating, I didn't mind it that much. It was almost as if when Magna died as Thor in Ragnarok and it happened within his mind, that was him being able to let go of all of the trauma and hurt and the life that he felt as though he had to lead at that point. The anger, bitterness, and upset. Thor died by being poisoned by the serpent in Norse mythology, and that's exactly what happened in his imagination too. However, in reality, Magna was still alive and well, and was back with his friends and family all sat around the table. As Isolde faded away and the words "I'll always be with you" were spoken to him, he threw the comics of Thor in the trash and he walked away, showing that he had well and truly moved on, and that it may not have been real at all. It's a very interesting way for the show to end, considering that it was never really teased to us like that before. So it is a brave move, and one that I think will definitely divide a lot of fans of the show. Overall review. I thought this season of the show was okay. I don't think it was as strong as the previous two, and I think that's mainly because of the ending. It was very much left out there in the open on what to believe or not, and I think whilst that can be a good thing, it's also something that during a show's finale, it can prove to be a bit frustrating. I felt like the pacing of the season was also slightly off. It felt a little jumpy and that time would move at a pace that just suited the show, rather than the actual rhythm of the way that we were watching it unfold. I also felt like some of the plots just didn't really amount to anything, such as the frustration over Jutal. In the first half of the season, it was ever present, and then it was never really spoken about again. And as well as that, the fact that Fjord had this passion for killing, but then it just stopped without anything being mentioned or him being punished by the authorities. Things were just brushed over and not really delved into that much. I think that's probably due to the fact that there were only 6 episodes, when in reality, it probably would have functioned a bit better with about 8. The visuals in this show were always really nice to look at, and the amazing shots paired with the stunning scenery of the fjords is something that pairs so well together and really allows the Norse mythology to feel like it's at the forefront of the show, and also the environment. However, I would have liked to have seen it a bit more from a visual perspective. The performances by the main cast were pretty good. I think with the material that they had, they did the best job that they could possibly do. Magna definitely steals the show in terms of performance ability, and it's followed by Lauritz. One of my main concerns with this season of the show was that Magna was just extremely unlikable, and I found it hard to be on his side. I didn't want to be on the side of the Giants because they were evil individuals, but as I found myself getting increasingly frustrated with Magna, it became really hard to be on his side as well. So I found myself just sat in the middle, not really caring about anybody, which I felt was a bad route for the show to go down. Because if you don't care about any of the characters, then why would you watch it? I like the fact that instead of the battle at the end of the season, they managed to find peace in Edda between the two kinds, and they were able to progress forward in a way that allowed both giants and gods to live together as one. The battle would have been extremely underwhelming in the warehouse, especially with just Saxa running towards them. The intercutting between Ragnarok and reality was a nice touch in the finale, especially from a visual perspective. It was great to look at. There were some great shots, some great emotions being delivered, and some of the best moments in the entirety of the season. This show had an okay story, but it could have been told better. But I think with the short runtime that it had, it managed to serve its purpose well. I just think it got dealt a bad hand in only getting 6 episodes. It's too short for a show like that, and it needs more room to breathe and develop. But overall, I'm pretty satisfied. So, there you have it. Ragnarok Season 3 Ending Explained. If you want to see more videos such as Endings Explained, theories and predictions and character breakdowns, then click on the I button, or alternatively you can head over to my channel where you'll find them all. If you'd like to give me a show or movie that you'd like me to review, then head over to my Twitter, @BrainPilot_, and tweet me what show or movie you'd like me to review next. And finally, if you'd like to see what I rate the latest movies that don't quite make the cut to getting a dedicated video, then head over to my Letterboxd profile. It's where I rate the latest releases in real time. What did you think of this final season? Leave a comment down below, and don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.